Hey, all you cool cats. Ready for a little fun? That's what I thought. Pop Talk, Scooby-Doo-Wah-Doo-Wah, Pop Talk. The fun never stops, you know. Pop Talk. If you're a nerd or a jock, run, don't just walk. Get ready to rock, you got Pop Talk.
Now it's time for Pop Talk.
Hey everybody, welcome back to another edition of Pop Talk here at San Diego Comic-Con, set in beautiful sunny Funkoville, California, or everywhere town, let's be real. I am so profoundly excited about our next guest, the man, the myth, the legend, Mr. Kevin Eastman. Thank you so much for being here, Kevin.
They typically call me the Ledge.
The Ledge?
Like legend, no they don't. No, it's so nice to be here, and I love Funko Pops, and we love the relationship, and it's just really fun to be back at San Diego Comic-Con.
Yes,
Again,
after
really
3 long years, it's nice to be back together as a family. Hey Kevin, here on Pop Talk, we love to challenge our guests to literally take our pop people parts and build whatever they would like. Feel free to fiddle. You can make yourself, you can make a family member, you can make some horrid creature that should not exist in reality. It's entirely your choice.
I love it. Okay, so I can do this, I can play while we're talking?
Yes, absolutely. This is kind of my way at disarming you so I can ask the hard biting questions.
Okay, please do.
So Kevin, can you tell me a little bit about some of the major influences that you had going into the creation of Turtles?
Absolutely. Growing up in a very small town in Maine, I was when I discovered comic books, to me that was the be-all, end-all of the doors opening, the clouds parting, the heavens singing, everything. That discovering comic books and knowing that if you could write them and draw them, you could go anywhere, tell any story, past, present, future, whatever you want to do. And in particular, I fell in love with an artist named Jack Kirby, who, along with Stan Lee, created
King Kirby.
Co-created most of the Marvel Universe, and that was my passion. I still remember to this day telling my parents, I want to be Jack Kirby when I grow up, and they had that mortified look, this old-fashioned New England family thinking, we're going to have one of those kids that never moves out of the basement kind of things. But my passion was there, and that was my driving force, and I'm one of the lucky ones that was able to succeed. And that was actually one of the things that Peter and I, the co-creator of the Ninja Turtles, Peter Laird and myself, bonded over, was Jack Kirby, and we both were like of one mind, of one thing, and that was our passion and our obsession.
The King Kirby stuff is very prevalent and honorific in your shared universe, right?
100%, and certainly right down to a direct influence for me. One of my favorite Jack Kirby periods was when he was at DC Comics as well.
Sure.
He created a comic book called Commandy, the Last Boy on Earth, which was a play on actually the first movie I ever saw in theaters was Planet of the Apes. Blew my mind. And Kirby created this universe and it was furthered in the concept of Planet of the Apes, where animals ruled. There was tigers, there was lions, there was gorillas, there was everything. All the animals had evolved, and the humans were reduced to sort of more like the animals and the slaves. And Commandy grew up in this bunker underground. When he came above ground, he was like the last boy on Earth, the last intelligent. For a 10-year-old, 11-year-old boy in Maine, that was like, I felt like Commandy, the last boy on Earth sometimes. Sure. And so the mutant animal aspect definitely was brought heavily into the creation of the Turtles, as well as co-creations like the Fantastic Four. I always loved, the fact that you had 4 characters that they may be individuals, have their own opinions, they may bicker, but when they came together as a team, they would always succeed. And those 2 sort of foundational things became an important part of the Turtles' creation in their universe. So
I feel like you just revealed the 11 secret spices or something, right? Like little bit of Kirby, Fantastic Four with the 4 heroes that come together as a family. And certainly anthropomorphized animals,
yes.
Right? Like a little bit of Prince Tufton in there.
Yes.
So would you say that that's a prevalent theme in the body of your work, is this idea of anthropomorphized animals, like the idea that the animals are essentially speaking for themselves?
Yep. Yeah, because it really is, and I feel like as a lover of animals and of all kinds of animals, that sort of we tend to quickly humanize them, if you will, and name them and treat them like family members. I know we've got 2 wiener dogs that I take better care of them than I do myself.
And their names are?
Well, Pickles and Pudding.
Okay.
And they're their nicknames are the Golden Girls. They're 16 years old. They're very they can't see, they can barely walk, and they're just spoiled. Every day is a joy with them. But it really is that foundation which we built on the Turtle universe and expanded on, because I also felt that with the creation of the Turtles, loving all kinds of superheroes and all kinds of comic books, with the Turtles, any person, any race, creed, color, anybody could imagine themselves as one of these characters. And sometimes we all feel like mutants, outcasts. Certainly as teenagers, you feel, trying to figure your stuff out. And so it's a favorite question I always ask of fans at events like this or signings is like, who's your favorite turtle and why? Because you can tell a lot about a person of why they like Donatello. Well, I'm the most like Donatello. Or I'm the funny one in my group. I'm the most like Michelangelo. I used to identify with Raphael a lot of times as a turtle because I was always like very passionate about things. But when I co-created the character Casey Jones with Peter Laird, I wanted this character that was a little bit crazier than Raphael, and so when they met, they would sort of, Raphael would kind of look a little bit more inward and sort of maybe pull back or realize he's got some issues to deal with. But I just fell in love with Casey more and more as a character. And although he was created earlier, in 1986, a movie came out called Big Trouble in Little China.
Yeah.
And Kurt Russell.
Yeah.
Kurt Russell played Jack
Classic.
Burton. I love it. So it's like, ever since that time, I've never not written Casey other than thinking of Jack Burton. And so I sort of put myself in a Jack Burton mode.
Sure.
And I could be that guy, sort of like, because I'd be the hero that was an accidental hero like Jack. You have just enough skills to be dangerous and somehow muddle your way through and still save the day. So,
right place, right time, right man.
And it's all in our reflexes.
Yeah. I dig it. So, Kevin, you had made mention before we got started today, we're approaching 100 plus issues now on the Mirage series.
Yes.
And that series has really been groundbreaking in its own way. It's gotten to carve new ground into some old space.
Yep.
What is one of your, let's say, more favorite innovations to the mythology of the Turtles that you've been able to accomplish with that series?
In the IDW universe, what's been so special, this is what I'm going to look like at someday, but it's going to have more dogs. And I'll add to it. But so one of the things that's most precious and special about the IDW Turtle universe is that at its point of creation back in 2011 is that we had multiple Turtle universes. We had the original black and white comic books, the cartoon series, the Archie series, the movies. And so we were able to pick from different Turtle universes and some of the same characters that populated those and some new ones, and then build them into a new place, a new foundation to tell stories from. So we pick different characters from different universes, turn them a little to the left, a little to the right, but bring them in so the fans, it's not so they're not changed that much or unrecognizable, but we can build that out as well as add new characters to that universe. And it sort of gives us the best of all worlds. We can pick our favorite parts of all those worlds, and that's been such a great adventure. And we never run out of ideas. And the people I get to work with, I laugh. They're all half my age. They draw better than I do. They write better than I do, and they just give me such inspiration. It's like, oh, the old man's got to up his game. But it's an incredibly creative environment, and IDW and Nickelodeon are so supportive in what we do in that series, including allowing us to do this new series which just came out, which is The Last Ronin.
Yeah.
Which is, to further that thought, it's the adaptation of a story that Pete and I wrote as the last Turtle story. We had our first story, we had a beginning. We wrote the last story in 1987, and then it was shelved because we were distracted by all these toys and cartoon shows and movies, and so we never got to complete that story. And so when Tom and I were working through lots and lots of issues of Turtles, we said, let's revisit that idea. Let's dust it off and come up with our last story and tell this futuristic version of kind of a post-apocalyptic-ish kind of world. And if there was just one turtle left, seeking redemption and salvation for his family, and that's what we started 3 years ago, and it just finally came out as a collected book this month. So
I would say, folks, if you're not reading it at home, it is profoundly sad, profoundly magical, and bittersweet. It's a special story. You've really captured something incredible.
Thank you. This whole team, because it really does take a village to create a comic book to make it work, and so these guys are sort of blended in this wonderful story that we had so much fun doing. And
if it's worth anything, I hope you know, and I hope you understand that for you, Kirby was king, and for many of the folks that you get to work with today, they see Eastman as their north, right?
It's a challenging thing to process because and I understand it. It took me a while to completely understand it, or accept it. I should say, better said. But when I said those words to Kirby, it's like he was it. It was everything. So I could never, when somebody would say that to me all these years later, I couldn't switch those roles and put myself as somebody, a mentor like mine, Jack Kirby. But it took me a while to go. When they would say that, I know that if I created some spark that's given them the drive to create and tell stories and be part of the world that I've loved my whole life, then that's the coolest thing that could ever be said to me. It's quite humbling, and it's a huge honor, and so I just tell them, thank you very much, and if you love it, you want it, work hard at it every day. If you want to be a writer, musician, athlete, work at your craft, work at what you do, and thank you for the kind words.
No. Nothing that isn't earned, right?
Thank you.
All right, so Kevin, clearly you know your creations infinitely well, but how well do you know yourself? I'm gonna run a gauntlet of questions your way. Let's see what magic we discover. Out of your 5 senses, which would you argue is your strongest?
Oh man, eyesight, I guess, or it just, because it's something that's so absolutely precious to me. It's like, because it's something that whether it's the media that you consume, the reading that you do, the research that you do, and just giving me the ability to create what I need to create. So I'd say vision. Yeah.
Okay, eyesight it is, strongest. Kevin, if you could read minds, turn invisible, or fly, what would it be and why?
I would say fly, and I love the idea. I feel like if I was invisible, I could scare people a lot, and that'd be really fun. Or read people's minds. I probably wouldn't want to know what people think of me, really. I like it when they lie.
Kevin, if you were a professional wrestler, what would your wrestling name be, and your personal call to action or your motto?
Man, I was a huge wrestling fan, and I grew up, again, in a very small town in Maine, and I remember being taken into the big city of Portland, Maine, at the Portland Expo to see Andre the Giant. I loved Andre the Giant, to be honest. It was one of those things that I just felt that he was a real superhero kind of guy, and just shape and size and power, and sort of was like, it was kind of cool. He didn't seem like he had to make himself more than he was. He already was that character.
So would you create a persona based off of Andre the Giant? What would Kevin Eastman be as a wrestler? What would that name be?
Immediately I could think of like Wedgehead or something, something really something
Kevin
silly.
the Wedgehead Eastman.
Kevin the Wedgehead Eastman, yeah. I like it. It has a good range. And he's really big, and he just wedges himself into the...
Kevin, obviously this is not your first convention, nonetheless Comic-Con. Have you ever had a strange, weird, or magical moment at one of these shows?
Hundreds, yes, and just San Diego alone is my 38th year of coming here, and always loved going to the convention in the early days because it was a sort of means to hang out with peers and meet people heroes, and hang out with your friends. As time has evolved, and now that the original Turtle fans are now in their late 20s, early 30s, and older, there's more moments that are just so incredibly precious and so incredibly humbling, in that somebody will come up with a turtle toy, and they'll say, it might have a missing arm, or it looks like it's been chewed up or beat up, and they say, I don't have anything that incredible for you to sign, but I have this that I saved since I was a kid. And I was like, that is the most awesome thing you could have brought to the show, because it's something you kept only your whole life, but it meant that much to you, and you brought it to me, and it gets very emotional. So I'd sign those things, or they'd bring a really beat up comic book, and again, apologize. I'm sorry, this comic's so beat up, and I said, this comic's like is every comic book in my collection. It's beat to hell because I read it and I loved it and it was important. So those kind of precious moments, and where they get emotional because it meant something to them at that age, and that's what an incredible gift, honestly.
You are absolutely part of many people's pan-generational narrative in that respect. That's cool.
It's really, it's awesome.
So, not shining a light on your own creations, but as a comic creator, is there a particular run or a particular artist that you would really encourage folks at home to discover?
I was a huge, it's funny how we mentioned my senses as vision being one of the most important. I was a lifelong fan of Daredevil, a blind superhero that was just, again, from issue 1, and I remember when Frank Miller came into the series in issue 158 and showed everybody how to write comic books for adults. So Frank Miller is somebody that I would actually recommend. Certainly that Daredevil run from 158 to 191 that he did. But I read a lot of, especially the older school guys, Wally Wood, Frank Frazetta. There was a lot of the EC guys. John Severin was one of my favorites. Russ Heath, and it's Barry Smith. But it was a lot of those guys that I would study how they drew. And in the early days, you can see one of my drawings. I would have Jack Kirby people with Barry Smith trees, and Frank Miller buildings as you find your way and your path in your own style. But it was all those influences were. I say a lot of the Silver Age comics artists are pretty fantastic.
Kevin, are you somebody that lives in the past, present, or future?
All of the above, because there's so many things from the past that inspire you and help you shape the present and also the future. And certainly, we only have we're a parent of a single child, and he's just 16 now. So it's sort of that wonderful moment where you can, without saying, "Well, on my day," but there's things that you've experienced that you can sort of share, and then and help understand what he's going through now and the things that he's doing, and help shape that future, because it's important. And he's such a good kid, and it's funny because he's the opposite of me. He's like really good at sports and stuff like that, and drawing that was
sure.
But he's just, it's great. So I'd say all of the above.
Well, for every Raphael, there is a Michelangelo,
yes,
right?
yes.
A natural-born athlete.
Yes.
I get it. So, Kevin, again, you have this profound legacy of creation. What is it like to see the things born of your hands popped?
I want to be a pop. No, it's I started working when I was like, see if I could grow more of a beard, I would do that. It goes back to the earliest days when we were drawing the comic books and the original Turtle comics. It's 2D. You're drawing in flat, and it's a comic page and this thing. So the first time you actually experience and see the character in 3D, where you can look at all sides and see it as a toy, we never believed. We saw the prototypes, we worked on it, we proved this, that we never believed it would actually happen, to the point where when the toys first came out, and it was June of 1988, we went to the local KB toy store in Springfield, Massachusetts, because KB was the place at the time, and we were walking through the store, heading back to the action figure aisle. We had to see for ourselves that the Turtles were in fact on the shelves, and this mom was dragging her young son out of the aisle saying, "No, I'm not buying you one of those stupid Ninja Turtles." And we were like, "Oh, what have we done?" And then it was so cool. So seeing the many iterations of the toys over the years is just, I hoard, I keep everything. We have everything, and I love them dearly, all of them. So we have every turtle thing that's ever been made.
We actually honored the Turtles. This is actually just a Donatello.
Yep.
We have others downstairs that I'd love to show you, where it's Donatello dressed as the Black Ranger.
I love it.
But again, Donatello's certainly a personal fave. I am a Leonardo,
Sweet.
so that should help explain who I am, I guess, maybe a little bit to you.
I love it.
But yeah, we just wanted to thank you again, certainly for signing a handful of these, and again, celebrating and shining a light on
I particularly,
Turtles.
because I love the second Turtle movie, and the
Yeah.
fact that you did, doing specific, genre-specific to such a specific fan favorite movie, one of my favorite movies. The first is my favorite, but that's a great movie. But I love the character, and the artisans that you work with, they capture the emotion in the moment and so well in these things, and you think like how much you can bring out of that. It's great. I love it. So I'm a huge pop fan.
All right, so ladies and gentlemen, this has been Mr. Kevin Eastman. I am Jason JJ Biscuits, again here at Funkoville 2022. We're so grateful for all of you back at home. Enjoy. We'll see you next time.
Thank you.